Hi guys, this is a video recording a little bit of reviewing of the math for the week. I know that I usually get this posted out, but with the craziness of the packets and trying to get those out, I was unable to record this morning, so I am really sorry that it's coming in a little late. I know that on my schedule I have all of the tests posted for Thursday. However, I will have it open on Friday, so if your child would like an additional day to work and prepare for the test, they're more than welcome to. I'm not requiring all the tests to be done on Thursday. I'm pretty much going to keep it open until Friday. So if that works out better for you, please go ahead and use that. What I do plan on doing right now is just reviewing the last two topics of their math, getting into the review, the math practice review, and maybe just touching base a little bit on ELA. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so I'm first going to start off with reviewing your 12-6. I understand that I gave you guys the workbook pages, but I kind of use this just to kind of little bit of a review to touch base on maybe questions that you guys have not been working on. The whole point of lesson 12-6 is to talk about equal shares. So kind of when we talked about, hopefully you guys can see these squares, but these squares are a share. So for example, let's say that I have this big old piece of cake and I'm going to share this cake with some friends. Each of these little squares is like a little piece of cake. So let's say that I plan on sharing this with 3 of my friends. So there's me and I want to share with 3 of my friends. So I need to total this out into sharing for 4 people. Now, what I kind of found what was helpful was to make sure that everyone got a piece of cake or a piece of share before I moved on. So what I did was using a pencil. Where is my pencil? And the reason why I want to use a pencil is I can always erase my answers and make sure that I'm doing it correctly. So if I have 4 people, the first thing I'm going to do is give everybody 1 piece of cake. So I got 1, 1, 1, and 1. So my 4 people have each 1 piece of cake. Do you guys see that? The next thing I want to do is give each of those people an additional piece of cake. So they're all going to get their second piece, second piece, second piece, and second piece. So you could see that, let's just say that maybe this one, the first one is Witcher. How about the second one is Ralphie? The third one, let's do Arian. And then the fourth one, let's do Isabella. Okay? So far, Mrs. Witcher has 2 pieces. Ralphie has 2, Arian has 2, and Isabella has 2. But what I want to do is I still have all these extra pieces of cake, so I want to make sure that I can divide it up. So why don't I give each of us another piece? So give them a 3rd piece of cake. So Mrs. Witcher gets a 3rd piece, Ralphie gets a 3rd piece, Arian gets a 3rd piece, and Isabella gets a 3rd piece. Do you guys see what I'm doing there? And then it looks like I have enough to give everyone 1 more piece. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces left. So let me give them their 4th piece next. Okay, so what I did was I divided up my cake into enough pieces that all of us have equal shares. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to now use a marker and I'm going to cut their pieces, cut our pieces of cake. And in this case, because it worked out really well, I'm going to break them up into columns. So I have Mrs. Witcher who gets this share, she gets 4 pieces. Ralphie gets 4 pieces, Arian gets 4, and Isabella gets 4. So what I did was I just broke up this piece of pie into 4 equal shares. All of us have the same amount of cake, so we are all equal, okay? Now, it worked out really well with columns, but you don't always have to do a column, but you do need to make sure that when you cut a piece, all of the pieces need to be connected. And what I mean by that, I don't really have a pencil to show, so I'll kind of shade it in with my marker. But you can see that that is my 1 piece right there. These are 4 of Ralphie's pieces and so on and so forth. So I did make sure each of us got 4 pieces of cake in this sense, and all of my pieces are touching. So this is how you do equal shares, okay? Let's see if there's anything else I kind of want to go over from this page. Okay, I'm going to go over this one right here. This question right here shows me two rectangles, right? Because I know that one side is shorter, one is longer. These are two rectangles. Now, if I look at my rectangles closely, I notice that each of them have eight pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then this one also has 8. The question says, draw lines to show two different ways to divide the rectangle into two equal shares. So that means I need to share this for a total of 2 people. So let's do, how about Amaret will get 1 share, and how about Michael will get 1 share, okay? So I need to figure out how many pieces Michael is gonna get and how many pieces Amaret's gonna get. So with my pencil, because I know I can always change it, I'm gonna each give them a piece. So maybe I'll do Michael gets 1, Amaret gets 1, Michael gets 2, Amaret gets 2, Michael gets 3, Amaret gets 3, and then Michael gets 4 and Amaret gets 4. So you can see I have all of Amaret's slices right here, and these are Michael's. So I noticed that because I divided up these pieces, that each of them get 4 pieces. So now with my pen, because now, or my marker in this case, just so you guys can see better, I'm going to cut their pieces to show that they each get 4. Okay. So right here, I see that 4 of them go to one of my friends, and then 4 go to another. Now, I want to show a different way to cut this cake into 4s, or I'm going to call it a cake just because it makes it easier. I don't want to do, in this case, I did rows. I'm going to find a different way. And remember that it doesn't matter about the shape as long as they both shares have 4 equal parts, okay? So let's do, I'm gonna make a fun shape. And remember, it does not matter about your shape as long as each of the pieces are cut into 4 equal parts. So I kind of did like a weird little L. And I think that's right, but the way that I'm gonna check is I'm gonna put my numbers in. I'm gonna make sure that each of these parts have 4, or each of these shares have 4 equal parts. And what do you know? I totally did it right. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're learning that it does not matter about the shape. All it matters is that they have equal shares. So in this case, if I was to say that this green one is Michael's share, this green one is Michael's share, Michael is getting the same amount of pieces for both of these cakes. It's just cut differently. But I know here he gets 1, 2, 3, and 4. Here he gets 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then same thing for, I think it was like Amaret, right? So she gets 1, 2, 3, 4 here, and it's just like a straight little line. But this one I cut a little bit more fun, but she's still getting 1, 2, 3. Oh, I wrote 3 twice. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4. Caught my mistake. Good thing I checked it, right? So remember, it does not matter about the shape. The only thing that matters is, I'm sorry, it doesn't matter about the shape. It doesn't matter on the size. The only thing that matters is they're getting the same amount of pieces. I can cut my square into weird shapes as long as each of those shapes have the same amount in each area, okay? Let's see, what else can I go over from this lesson? I will be putting up your answers on Dojo tomorrow. If you go look at practice page 12-6, I kind of liked this question down here. The question says, which rectangle does not show 2 equal shares? Well, the best way for you to do that is figure out how many squares are in each shape. So A has 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I noticed that each of these parts have 3 pieces, so this is equal. So that's not the answer because it's asking me which one is unequal. So I'm going to eliminate A. Now B, it looks like there's 1 piece here, and then the other piece has 3 pieces. Ask yourself, is that fair? If Mrs. Witcher gets this 1 piece and let's say Kingsley gets these 3, is that fair? Are we equal? The answer is no. So far B is an unequal piece. They do not both have 1 piece, or they do not both have 3. So let's hold on to that answer when I come back, because remember, I'm looking for which of these does not have 2 equal shares. And C, it breaks them up into columns. And I noticed that both sides of the rectangle are separated into 2 equal shares. This first share has 3 parts, and the second share has 3 parts. So this is equal. And then for D, they're separated into rows. Each of these parts have 2 equal shares. 2 equal shares with 2 equal pieces inside. So the answer is B because they are not equal. Okay, that's pretty much it for 12-6. If you're having any questions on that, please send me a message and I can meet up with you and we can do a one-on-one session. But that is 12-6. Let me go ahead and pull out 12-7 and then we'll get into the math practice test, okay? Let's see. All right, so 12-7, and like I said, you didn't have to do this, but I'm gonna use this just for practice. This is the fun one. This is the one where you kind of have to use the clues to figure out what shape that they're referring to. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of do one with you guys right now. Okay, how about this one? We'll do this one together. So it looks like I have a cylinder, a sphere, a cone, and a pyramid. Kind of ask yourself what makes these similar, what makes them different, and then we're going to try to figure out what is the mystery shape that they're talking about, okay? So question number 3 says, which shape am I? So I'm going to number my clues, and they've actually given me 2 clues. Okay? The first clue says I have 0 edges, and then the second clue says I do not have any flat surfaces, okay? Well, what you need to do is you first need to eliminate the things that it would not apply for, okay? So the first question says, I have 0 edges. And remember, an edge is usually a straight line of where, like kind of where you would like fall off if you were sitting on the shape, right? It's kind of like a straight line. It has to be a straight line. Now, if I look at this, a cylinder does not have any 0 edges. So that one could be a cylinder. A sphere has 0 edges. So I'm going to hold on to sphere. A cone has no edges, so I'm going to hold on to cone. But a pyramid has edges all on the bottom and on the side. So I'm going to eliminate pyramid because the clue says that they do not have any edges, and I know a pyramid does have an edge. So see what I did? I just eliminated the pyramid. Okay? Now the second clue says I do not have any flat surfaces. Remember, a flat surface is something that I could maybe set something on. If I took that flat surface to a piece of paper, I could set it on flat and I could draw it, right? Well, let's kind of look at what my options are. Remember, a cylinder, if you were to hold up a cylinder, and I'm going to show you by kind of drawing it out, a cylinder has 2 flat surfaces, which is a circle, okay? I could take this right here and I could draw a circle. I could put it on top of my paper and I would draw it. So a cylinder has 2 flat surfaces, so I'm going to eliminate, it is not a cylinder. Now, a sphere, it rolls. It just continues rolling. There is no flat surfaces on a sphere, so actually I can hold on to it. I do not have any flat surfaces. That is true. Let's hold on to sphere. What about a cone? Are there any flat surfaces? Well, if it's standing upright, it probably has a flat surface on the bottom. And in this case, when we look at a 3D shape, you're not always going to see all parts of it. But what I did was I did draw right here that there would be a flat surface at the bottom, and it's a circle. So I'm going to eliminate cone. So it looks like my answer choice is sphere, but the thing is I need to check my work. So let's go through this. Does a sphere have 0 edges? Yep, let's check that off because it sure does, okay? Does a sphere have flat surfaces? Sorry, it says I do not have any flat surfaces, and a sphere does not have any flat surfaces. So it looks like my answer is a sphere. So I'm gonna go ahead and circle it. Okay, that is pretty much what you're doing for this lesson. It does kind of come across as a little bit longer, but it's kind of fun. It's that fun guessing thing that we always talk about. But remember, the best thing that you can do is use process elimination. I just did that right now. I eliminated the answers that I knew were not true. And then what I did was I actually went back and checked my work to make sure that the answer that I chose does follow along with these clues, because sometimes we do make mistakes, and I want to make sure that when I'm checking my work, I'm checking to make sure I did not make a mistake, okay? I think that's pretty much it that I wanted to go over for 12-7. The last thing I want to do is go over your math practice test. Now, if your parents picked up your packet today, I have left it in there for you. If they did not pick it up, it is available for you guys to download and print on your Pearson's website. So what I'm going to do is I've already downloaded it, and I am going to work on it on a share screen with you guys, okay? So let me go ahead and share my screen. Oops, that's not the one. Okay, here we go. Sorry, I just want to make sure I have it all available. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen now. And what I did, parents, just in case if you want to know, I downloaded it from the Pearson's website, and then I opened it up with DocHub. And DocHub is basically an application that allows you to like make corrections on here. You can change stuff. You can pretty much write on this digital copy. So first things first. Number 1 says, which shape has 6 flat surfaces and 8 vertices? Now, if you have not taken this math practice test, I want you to pause my video, complete it, and then come back and review this, because there's no point in me giving you the answers if you have not tried it. I want you guys to check to see if you understand this math, and you can't understand the math if you haven't even tried it. So if you are not done with this math, pause my video and then come back to it when you finish it, okay? It's in your math packets from your Tuesday folder. Okay, so if you're still on here, that means that you did your math practice test, okay? So let me repeat this again, I'm so sorry. Number 1 says, oops, what did I do? Number 1 says, which shape has 6 flat surfaces and 8 vertices? Now, that is a lot to kind of think about. So I might personally use process of elimination. And the reason why I might use process of elimination, it might be easier for me to get rid of some answers, okay? Let's use dark blue so you guys can see. Okay, now I know that I'm looking for something that has 6 flat surfaces. Whoops, I wanted the highlighter. 6 flat surfaces. I also am looking for something that has 8 vertices, okay? Now, as I'm working on this, I need to figure out, do any of these shapes not have 6 flat surfaces? Well, I know a cylinder has 2 flat surfaces, not 6. So actually, I can get rid of a cylinder because it has 1 on the top and 1 on the bottom, okay? What about a cone? How many flat surfaces does a cone have? Well, I know it has 1, but if I did not know it has 1, I for sure know it doesn't have 6. So I can actually eliminate B. C, does it have 6 flat surfaces? Well, it has 4 going around, and then it has 2 on the side. So 4 plus 2 is 6. That would be true. Let's hold on to C. And a sphere, now remember, we know a sphere just rolls. There's no flat surfaces, so I can eliminate D. Now, technically, I have an answer, right? I know my answer is C, but here's the thing. I do not know it for sure unless I've checked my work. Well, let's go through this. Does a rectangular prism have 6 flat surfaces? We counted it. There's 4 going around, and then there's 2 on the side. So 4 plus 2 is 6. Guess what? That checks off, okay? Why did I do that? Okay. Does it have 8 vertices? Remember, 8 vertices, or a vertex, is that pointy thing. You guys need to know these vocabulary words. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 on this side. And then there's also going to be 5, 6, 7, and then a hidden one back there, a total of 8. So guess what? I found my answer. I know that the answer is going to be C. Okay? Hopefully you guys can see all these markings that I did. And I checked my work. That's exactly what you need to do. Now, number 2 says, how many squares cover this rectangle? Well, all of my squares here. Now, I can just count just for fun, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. But I actually want to check my work, okay? So here's 1. Here's 2. 3. Sorry that they're all not perfect, you guys. 4. 5. Okay? I have 6, 7, 8. This is kind of harder. 9. Then this one has 10. Okay, so I know, because I just checked my work, and I'm going to kind of move these around for you guys so you can see. I know that when I counted all of these boxes, I counted 10, but I also proved my answer by putting a number in each square, and that's kind of important. So how many squares cover this rectangle? Your answer should be 10, right here, 10. Okay? Remember, if any of these questions are hard for you, if you don't understand, you need to have your parents or yourself message me, because I have no problem meeting up with you guys to have the conversation to go further into detail about this, okay? Number 3, which plane shape can be traced from the solid figure? Mark your answer. Now remember, a plane shape is a flat shape. Okay, we talked about plane shapes would be a circle, a square, a triangle, and a rectangle. Those are flat surfaces. They are non-3D items, okay? If I was to take this box vase, okay, and I put it on its, anywhere on my piece of paper, what could I draw from this? Well, think about it. Think about what shape this is. This shape is a rectangular prism, okay? I know, and I'm gonna see if I can highlight to kind of show you guys. I know that from what I know about a rectangular prism, I can actually draw a rectangle. Do you guys see that? And on the top, I know that these flowers in the way, and it's actually going to be kind of almost hard to maneuver here. But I know on the top, I could draw a square, okay? So with that being said, now that I know what flat shapes I could draw from this rectangular prism, let's go through and mark our answer. Can I draw a circle? I most definitely cannot. Can I draw a rectangle? Well, I did right here. Can I draw a hexagon? A hexagon is a 6-figure item. No. Do you see any triangles here? The answer is no. And just again, this rectangle is actually right here. So I am going to mark my answer, sorry, I think I'm using green, as B, rectangle. Okay, and I hope you guys got that one correct. All right, let's keep going. Same thing here. What plane shape can you draw from this? Well, ask yourself, this solid figure, this 3D figure, what is it called? And if you know from the shapes that we've been talking about, this is called a cylinder. And if you don't remember what a cylinder is, I hope that you've been practicing your vocabulary words, but a cylinder has shapes that I can draw. Now, my flat surface is on here, so let's see if I can kind of draw it there. Hopefully, I wonder if I can, maybe not. Well, what I'm trying to show you guys right here is this cylinder is, it has a flat shape right here, which is a circle, okay? So now that I know that it is a circle, I wonder if I could color that in. No, I'm not gonna worry about it. You guys know what I'm talking about. I'm gonna go through and I'm going to see if the answer circle is available. And if circle is not available, I'm gonna see what the options are, okay? From this cylinder, can I draw a hexagon? Absolutely not. There is no six-sided figure on here. There is no square. There is a circle, so let's hold on to it. And a cube is actually not even a cube is not a plane shape. That is a 3D figure. So I know I can eliminate D. So I'm left with C, circle, and the way that I'm gonna prove mine is show it right here. Here is a circle, so my answer is C, circle. Okay? All right, I hope this has been kind of helpful for you guys. I like this little drawing on here. It makes things easier for you to see. Number 5 says, Percy divides this rectangle into 2 equal shares. How many squares are in each share? Well, what I'm going to do is kind of the strategy that I taught you guys. I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna divide it into 2 equal shares. And I'm deciding, and you guys can kind of do it yourself by picking 2 friends. I'm gonna decide that this cake is going to be shared between, how about Twisha and how about Eli, okay? So Twisha gets 1 piece, and Eli gets 1 piece. Okay, Twisha gets a 2nd piece, and Eli gets a 2nd piece. Twisha gets a 3rd piece, Eli gets a 3rd piece. Twisha gets a 4th piece, Eli gets a 4th piece, and I still have 2 left, right? So I'll give Twisha a 5th piece, and I'll give Eli a 5th piece, okay? So guess what I just showed? I just showed me separating them. And then now that I can see these 5 pieces can go to Twisha and these 5 can go to Eli, I can even draw a line to show you guys, okay? So I would actually, oh my gosh, that's a terrible line. I'm going to divide this share into 2 parts. Do you guys see? I have this side for Twisha, this side for Eli. And if I count them up, I have, each of them gets 5 pieces. So let's go through my answers and see if 5 is there. Well, they actually get more than 2 pieces, so let's eliminate 2. They get more than 3, so let's eliminate 3. And they definitely get more than 4. So I'm left with one answer, which is 5. And if I go right here, I'm checking my work that each of them get 5. So my correct answer should be D, 5 equal shares. Okay? All right, number 6 says, show 2 different ways that you could divide the square below into thirds. Now, remember, thirds is 3 pieces. 3 pieces. Thirds, if you're third in line, you're the third person in line. So remember, third means 3. You need to divide this into 3, but they have to be equal. So just for the sake of it, if I took this and I did this, are these, I have 3 pieces. I have 1, 2, and 3. Are those equal though? The answer is no. Those are not 3 equal pieces. So I need to make sure that they're equal. And remember, we talked about with squares and rectangles, the easiest way is to do columns and rows, okay? So I'm gonna do 1 share, 2 shares, okay? And those look very equal. And now I'm gonna, so these are considered columns. Now let's do rows. I have 1 share, 2 shares, and then this is my 3rd share. So I have 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3. So this is the best way that you could divide this into 3s, okay? I had friends that would try to get fun with it and make weird pieces and stuff. The thing is, keep it simple. Like, don't try to go all crazy and make these like strange pieces, because if you do, a lot of times you're setting yourself up to get wrong on the answer if it's not perfect. So why don't you guys keep it easy when you're working with squares and rectangles, just to keep them with rows and columns, okay? Number 7 says, draw 2 shares that are the same size but different shapes, okay? So let's see. Whoops. I don't know. Give me 1 second, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry, I had to grab something. Okay, so let me get back to that question. I'm so sorry about that. Okay, so it says draw 2 shares that are the same size but different shapes. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw a rectangle, okay? And I want to have the same size. So copy. Okay. So here we go. I have 2 rectangles, okay? And I'm going to say that, actually, I'm going to say that each of my rectangles have, break this up. Okay, we're going to, let me move this one over. Okay. All right, perfect. So here's my rectangle. Do you guys see it? I'm going to make, what if I could, okay, no big deal. I'll just remake it. It's not a big deal. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to make the rectangle the same with all the same equal pieces. Okay, perfect. So now what I'm going to do to show you guys is I know that each of these rectangles have 8 pieces, right? This rectangle is 8 pieces, this one. And remember, I'm going to decide to do, it says draw 2 shares. So I'm sharing this between 2 people. So this first one, I'm going to say, here is 1 share, and perfect. I'm going to do this one as a 2nd share. Okay? So I know that these are both shares, right? So I'm showing that this is a square, this is a square. I can do this too. Are you guys ready? I can do, and I know that each share has 4 pieces. Okay, this share has 4 pieces. That one does too. And then let's do another share. Purple. Okay, so what this is telling you guys is this share is 4 pieces, but this share is, they're equal. This one's a square and this one's a rectangle, but it doesn't matter because each of them have 4 pieces. And I'm actually going to write that in so you guys can see that they each have 4. Okay, let's do this one as 2. This one is 3. And this one is 4. Okay, there's 4 pieces. Now this one also has 4. Here's 2. Here is 3. And then this one is 4. Okay, so what it's saying is they're equal because they both have 4 equal shares or 4 equal pieces in a share, but this one is different because it's the shape of a square and this one's the shape of a rectangle. But it doesn't matter. If I was to give this one to Milady and I was going to give this one to Sophia, they're both getting the same amount of pieces. It's just going to look a little different. So I hope that makes sense, okay? Number 8 says, I do not have, oh, this is a, can you guess what it is? Are you ready? I do not have any flat surfaces or vertices. So far, I know that one of the clues, and I think I'm going to highlight the clues. I'll underline the clues, okay? So it does not have any flat surfaces and no vertices. So 0 surfaces and 0 vertices. It cannot be traced. What does that mean? It means that there's no flats, okay? What shape am I? Well, you can kind of go through all the shapes that we've been learning about, right? How about a cylinder, right? A cylinder doesn't have vertices, but it does have flats. So it can't be a cylinder. How about a pyramid? Oh, a pyramid has vertices, it has flat surfaces, and it could be traced with a square and a triangle. So it can't be this. How about a rectangular prism? Ooh, it has flat surfaces and vertices. How about a sphere? A sphere has no flat surfaces, no vertices, and it cannot be traced. So if you said sphere, you are correct, but the directions say that you need to explain. So I'm going to type here, okay? And I'm going to answer the question. It says, which shape am I? You can't read me. You are a sphere because a sphere does not, sorry, you guys see it? Does not have any flat surfaces. A sphere does not have any vertices, and you cannot trace a sphere. Oopsies. All right, so there is my answer. Check my work. Okay, it says does not have flat surfaces. The sphere doesn't have flat surfaces. It has 0 vertices and it cannot be traced. So I'm good with my answer. So I'm going with a sphere. And how about, you know, something that might help too is sometimes drawing the item. And this is a sphere. Well, actually, that's not true. This is not a sphere. This is a flat plane. This is a plane, right? But if we kind of looked at, you know, my 3D shape, it doesn't have any flat surfaces, no vertices, and it cannot be traced because it would just roll around. So I'm actually going to get rid of this because that would be kind of against what we're learning. All right, number 9, last one. It says draw a pentagon. Tell how many sides, how many angles, how many vertices it has. Here's the thing. You have to remember what a pentagon is, right? Penta means 5. So that means that I need to draw a shape that's 5 sides. All right, so here's where it's fun. Remember, your shapes could be crazy different as long as it has 5 sides and everything, right? So here's one side, 2, 3, 4, and how about 5 right here? Okay, I just drew some random shape, and I could do random ones too, but just to make sure, I need to figure out, and I knew that in order to figure out what a pentagon was, I have to have 5 sides. So actually, I know that my answer right here is going to be 5 anyways, but I want to prove my answer, okay? So here's one side, here's a second side, here's a third side, a fourth side, and a fifth side. So do you guys see that? I have my sides next to the sides that I was talking about. I'm going to move some of them down so you guys can see it a little bit better. Okay. All right, there we go. Now, I know it has 5 sides. Now, angles are the parts that are inside. So I wonder if I have, is there anything that I can use to show an angle? How about just for the sake of it, I'm going to use this circle right here. Okay, so can I make it smaller? Make it yellow. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys, remember the angles are in the inside. So right here is an angle. I don't like that. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can grab something else. Okay, ooh, that's kind of hard to see. I feel like I'm making this harder on ourselves. Sometimes it's so much harder to do this on the computer. I'm gonna zoom in really quickly, okay? Let's try this again. All right, this is how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna just go with what I know how to do, okay? I'm gonna do the angles on the inside so you guys can see better, okay? So here's an angle, okay? Here is an angle. This angle is actually on the outside, okay? Here is an angle, and here's an angle. And if I count these up, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 angles. So that kind of gives me my answer for my next question. How many angles are there? Well, there are 5. Okay, so far it has 5 sides, 5 angles, and how many vertices? Now remember, vertices are those super, super pointy things, right? I don't want to touch it because it's going to hurt. We'll make those into a circle, okay? Let's do this as, how about orange? Okay, so let's go ahead and zoom in to look at our pointy stuff, remember? So right here is pointy, here is pointy, here is pointy. Ooh, this is a sharp little pointy part, and then here's another one. So how many do you guys see? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 orange vertices. So my answer is 5. So now I know that a pentagon has 5 sides, 5 angles, 5 vertices, and I proved it by putting in the numbers and all that fun stuff, okay? That is pretty much it for your math. Remember, if there's something you don't understand, please ask me. I believe your math test on Thursday has 18 questions. I'm also going to make it available on Friday. So if you would like to take Thursday to study from this, you're more than welcome to. And then take your test on Friday. Okay, let's go ahead and stop sharing, get back to my video, and let me pull out ELA to review that with you. All right, so if you decided to stick around, you were here for some ELA study time, I guess you want to say. You should have read the story of Brave Bessie. It was, read about a brave woman who became the first African-American female pilot. This is a biography. Now remember, a biography is when it is a story of somebody's life. You find out that the story is about a woman named Bessie Coleman. She is actually considered a hero for a lot of people. Actually, she could be considered a hero for anybody, but a lot of the groups women look up to her because, you know, she stood up for, you know, being one of the first female pilots. She's actually one of the first African-American female pilots. So she was, you know, she was considered a hero for African-Americans too. But honestly, like, she's an inspiration for everyone just because she set her mind to something and she did it. So this is definitely I really, really like this story of Bessie Coleman. So let's get straight into it. I'm just going to kind of touch base about maybe some important information from the story. You do have a selection quiz on this. So even if you want to pull out your selection test, I can't show you, but if you want to pull out your selection test, I'm going to be going over some of those, and then maybe you can even answer the questions after this video, okay? So we learned that Bessie Coleman, she lived in a house in Texas. We found out that she actually really, really enjoys reading. Let me see if I could screen share to the story so then you guys don't have to just hear me talking. I think I had it open. Okay, this is great. So then I can kind of go through it, okay? All right, because remember, you guys want to use this when you're answering your test questions. I always kind of pull it out and I find my answers, okay? So we find out that Bessie is someone who loved to read. She loved reading about stories about Booker T. Washington as well as Harriet Tubman, so those were heroes for her. She also daydreamed of becoming a hero herself someday, so she definitely had big dreams, right? As she got older, we found out that school became extremely important for her. It was so important that she would walk 4 miles each day just to get to school. And then because she had to walk there, she had to walk home. So 4 miles is like a really far away walk for a little kid. Hopefully maybe your parents can show you what 4 miles looks like, but that's what we call dedication. If something is extremely important to you that you're willing to do 8 miles every day of walking, then it must be extremely important for her, which was school. So I think that's, you know, extremely impressive that she would walk that far just to get to school. She practiced reading with her little brothers and her sisters. She continued to practice her numbers by checking the money for her family as her family picked cotton. So her family actually worked in the fields for picking cotton. And we know that we learned about her that she was really dedicated to school, that she actually considered going to college, which meant she had to save a lot of money for that. So she was dedicated to go to college, and she ensured that she saved as much money as she could just to get there. When she was 18 years old, she went to college, but she had to leave after a few months of being in school. The reason why, she just couldn't afford it anymore. School was way too expensive, and unfortunately she had to drop out, which is so sad. Even though she had to drop out, she was not willing to give up on her dreams. She moved to Chicago, and when she was in Chicago, she lived with her brother, Walter and John, and she became really aware of Chicago's big dreams. When she did get a job with her brothers in a barbershop, and she always listened to her brothers talk about things. And one of the things that really caught her mind was when they mentioned, when one of her brothers mentioned that, you know, women could be pilots. Remember, pilots are people that can fly planes. So one time she was listening to her brother tell a story about French lady pilots in World War I, and she just was hooked. She thought that was the most amazing thing ever. And just that little story of listening to her brother talk about pilots really got her interested in flying. And just so you know, I hope you're listening. Let's see. Kind of touching base on little things. Oh, something extremely important on this page was, you know, her brothers taught her about, you know, women pilots, which is super intriguing for her. But she later discovered that because she lived during the 1920s, she did not have the same rights as everyone. And although she really wanted to learn how to fly, she was really unable to learn how to fly in the United States because people would not teach people of color how to fly. And what that means is, we know that Bessie Coleman is African American, so she has darker skin color. And back then, if you had darker skin color, you weren't treated the same. So unfortunately for her, she learned that where she was living, she could not learn to be a woman pilot just by the color of her skin. And that's really sad to know that something like that can, you know, hinder you from following your dreams. But what's kind of amazing about Bessie Coleman is we learned that just the color of her skin is not the reason why she was going to become a pilot. She was determined and she did everything she could, right? So here's some of the amazing things about her. She learned that she could actually go to France, and someone in France would actually teach her how to fly, which, you know, is amazing. And, you know, with that being said, she actually had to go jump through a lot of hoops just to get to France. In France, which is in Europe, they speak a language called French. They don't speak English, and that's what Bessie Coleman spoke. So in order for her to get to France, she actually had to learn the language first. So one of the most important things before she got there was to learn French. She had to learn how to speak French. She saved her money, and she was finally able to fly to France. When she got there, she actually had to take a steamboat ship. So she had to take a boat there because Europe is all the way across the water. It was her first time on a big boat like that, and she was scared because she was all by herself. She was a young woman traveling to a country that she has no idea anything about it, and she just did this because she was so determined, right? She's such a strong woman. It took 9 long days for her to sail across the ocean, and specifically the Atlantic Ocean. And when she reached France, she found a school that would teach her how to fly a plane. After years of hard work, Bessie was ready to begin her first flight. Keep in mind, remember, this is not just a quick summary. I'm actually going into detail about stuff because usually I would do this if I was reading it with you guys, okay? Here are some of the things that she did on her flights. She studied how to inspect the plane. What that means is she had to learn how to check to make sure the engine was working, that everything was like the propellers were working so there wouldn't be any mishaps or any accidents. After a few lessons, she climbed into the back of the plane right here, and she was with her teacher, who was also in the front, and basically she took off on her first big flight. She was able to take control of the plane, and she flew it herself, and it talks about just the excitement that she felt. We could even look at her picture and see that she was smiling. This was, you know, a very exciting time for her. Let's see. Down below, it kind of talks about something extremely important. It says, Bessie became the first African-American woman to earn a pilot's license. So not only was she, did she have to go through all this, but after all of like the, you know, traveling to France and learning the language, saving all that money, she actually became the first African-American woman to earn a pilot's license, which was a huge deal because she's setting herself up for, you know, girls in the United States to look up to her. Not just girls, but like girls of color and all that. So she became an inspiration to a lot of people very quickly. She was definitely someone special, and it's kind of cool. They even show, you know, this is a real life picture of Bessie Coleman's license, which I think is really amazing. If you can kind of see the date that it was given to her, it was on June 15th in 1921. We're going to keep going. So we know that later on she returned back to America, and you know, because she was the first African-American woman to receive a pilot's license, she became very, very popular, and a lot of people were interested in learning about Bessie Coleman's life. Bessie wanted to help other African-Americans. Specifically, she wanted to help them learn that if they have a dream, that they can go through with that dream and it can come true, and color of your skin should not stop a dream from coming true. We do learn that there was, she did do let me see. I'm trying to think where it was. She went into she was doing a huge show of showing people her flying skills, right? I'm over here. She talked about that she was in a plane and she did all these trips as she took, like these little tricks as she took off. She performed some challenging flying stunts. So stunts are kind of like, you know, little maneuvers or like little tricks. She was doing all these stunts in Texas and in Tennessee, as well as in Illinois. She flew over fields of, like the ones that she picked cotton from as she was a child. So that's kind of cool to like talk about connecting back to her childhood. With her becoming a pilot and doing all these really cool stunts, she actually got a nickname called Brave Bessie, which is where we get the title of the book from. Years later, her dream of opening a school finally came true. So actually Bessie Coleman created a club where she taught African-American people how to fly. And she was also able, to like help all those people's dreams come true if they wanted to become to become a pilot. So that was I just really enjoyed the story. I think she's an amazing woman, and it kind of teaches all of us that no matter, you know, what's being held against you, you can always follow your dreams just like she did. Here down below is a picture of Bessie Coleman. Brave Bessie as her nickname. We have a timeline of her life. Let me see if I can zoom in for you guys. Okay. We know that it first starts with her being born in 1892. She was born in Atlanta, Texas on January 26th. In 1910, Bessie enrolls in college and so on and so forth. Right here is kind of an important part. In 1926, Bessie Coleman dies in Jacksonville, Florida. And then there was an aero club open for her, for people to learn how to fly. Okay. Pretty much this whole story, this whole biography of Bessie Coleman was to show that people can succeed in becoming a pilot no matter what challenges or anything that they face. So this was a really good story. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did, but I really enjoyed the biography of reading about Bessie Coleman. But yeah, so that's your selection test. I hope I kind of went over pretty much all the important parts of the story. And the last thing that I kind of want to touch base with before I stop my video is your reading comprehension test this week is going to include, let's see, looking at mine right now. You are going to be reading a story called Albert Einstein, and you are also going to be reading a story called Heroes Among Us. And if your parents put up your guys' packet, it's available for you guys to check it out. I'm looking at Albert Einstein, and I'm kind of going over your test questions really quickly. You need to number the events in sequence order, so the time when it happened, so what happened first, next, then, and last. The best way that you could do that is to find that event in the story, underline it, and then from there, go ahead and determine what happened first, next, and last. You were going to be working with synonyms. Remember, synonyms have almost the same meaning. So number 2, they ask you about the word noticed. They want to know what another word for noticed means. I'm looking at question number 3. It's asking you about text evidence. You're gonna have to go back into the story and check it out. They're gonna ask you what a synonym for the word quit is. And remember, they're gonna give you guys the word in, for example, it says, what word means almost the same meaning as quit? If I were you, because you're doing synonyms, I would plug it in. I would plug these words in and see if they make the same sense as if you were to use the word quit. And if it does, then that's pretty much going to tell you that that is a synonym. Remember, you need to make sure you're using it in the right context of the sentence, because sometimes there are words that have multiple meanings, and I don't want that to trick you guys, okay? Once again, there's another sequencing question on number 5. They're asking you something that happened after an event, so make sure that you guys are checking that. They also put it in bold because they want you to know it says after. You are then going to read a story called Heroes Among Us. Let's see. Oh, cool. They're going to ask you 3 words. You're going to tell me the synonyms for all 3. Make sure you're checking your work, because if you get one wrong, they're all going to be wrong, so please check your answers on that one. Number 7 is a sequencing question. They want to know something that happened first. You have another synonym question. Context question. They're going to ask you about something. You can find it in the text. And then a sequencing question. So pretty much this whole test is about synonyms, sequencing, and text evidence. That means that all of your answers easily are proven. There's nothing that you should kind of have to think about and go, maybe that's the answer. All of this can be proven by going back into the story and checking your work, okay? Remember, you guys can take your test on Thursday or Friday. I'm giving you that extra day if you guys would like to. That's pretty much it for the week. You guys have all of next week off for spring break. I'm going to miss seeing your faces, but I really do hope you guys have a great, if you celebrate Easter this Sunday, so I hope you have a great Easter. If you don't celebrate, I hope you just have a great time spending time with your family and your loved ones. Hopefully you guys can tell me about some good TV shows or good movies that you watch. I'm always looking for one. Thanks to Riley, I'm watching Onward. Other than that, I love you guys with everything that I have in me, and I just hope you guys have a great week. If you need anything, make sure you message me, and good luck on all your tests. Love ya.